This podcast is brought to you by Convo Cloth, the official clothing apparel of the NBC podcast. For the latest apparel, please go to www.nothingButConvos.com. Now, let's get into the latest episode of the NBC podcast with your boy, S. McCann. What's good, people? It's the NBC podcast with your boy, S. McCann. This is episode 8, Dax Deal. And in this episode, I have a special guest, Mike Z. And we get into many topics today in the NFL. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Yeah. Episode 8, Dax Deal, with my boy Mike Z. What's good, Mike?
How's it going there, Sammy?
You know, just trying to, make it through this pandemic. So me and Mike, we started our relationship of being, cool friends, talking all sports and everything when I used to work at Virtua in the kitchen. So me and him used to just go at it, talk shit all day for 8 hours about sports. Let the people know, your favorite team and who you root for and everything else, NFL, NBA, MLB.
Well, first, let me start. Yeah, those were the best days back in the day, man. Remember them football Sundays in the kitchen? I don't think we got no work done. We was back there back and forth watching the games on TV, talking trash, like looking at fantasy, whatnot. Me, you, and Kev. Everybody, man, we used to go back and forth all day. Nope, I don't think we did no work, man, there. I remember there was the one day I think you was doing the fantasy draft on your phone at work.
Yeah, I was doing it on my phone on the grill.
Yes, you were.
Cooking.
But a little background. I'm a little bit different. I don't like none of the home teams really, except I do root for the Sixers and the Flyers. Although I'm not as big into basketball as you know, but I do root for the Sixers. So hopefully when they get started back up, they get in it and they get past Boston this year. But as far as the NFL, huge Ravens fan. Ain't nobody a bigger Ravens fan than me around here. I get a lot of trash talk for it, but
tattoos and all.
Of course, yep. I got that. I got that ring. Growing up. Ray Lewis, Ed Reid, they was the two premier defenders, and I just kind of gravitated towards that because I'm a defensive guy. I like the defense, and while everybody else likes that high scoring game and whatnot, I don't mind a little defensive battle. So I just kind of stuck with the Ravens. Baseball, that's my favorite sport. I grew up playing that. But Cardinals, St. Louis, first team I ever watched on TV, and I kind of just stuck with them ever since. Back when they had Mark McGwire going back and forth to Sammy Sosa back in the day, and I just stuck with the Cardinals, been with them ever since. So a little bit different than everybody. Everybody makes fun of me for it, but that's all right.
Yeah, but you still rep it though. That's your team. You rep. You don't care.
Yeah, of course. I ain't never gonna change.
Yeah, you can't change. So a little background with me for the new listeners. I'm an Eagles fan, Sixers fan, Phillies fan, Flyers fan, 4 for 4. I get down with my boys, my Eagles, but again, I still talk other sports, other teams within the NFL. I just love, the NFL and sports in general. So I'm not, hardcore and exiting out all other teams or whatever. So I watch everything, every game I'm watching. I'm heavy into fantasy. As me and Mike, we get down with the fantasy. We in multiple leagues. So, we're sports fans. We love sports.
Hey,
so,
can I ask you from a previous episode when you did your episode about the Eagles off season?
Yeah,
you talked about your mom being a Cowboys fan would make you wear that Cowboys suit to school.
Yeah.
Do you have any pictures of you in that Cowboys suit?
I do not, but I will try to get some. It might be at my grandma's house somewhere, and in the photo book or whatever. But
we got to send that to Kev.
Yeah,
Kev's that big Cowboys fan, so we got to send that to him.
Cowboys
I remembered
fan.
after that episode, I'm like, I got to ask him about this.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was hard, man. I'm like, man, as soon as I grew out of that, I loved it as soon as I grew out of that. So let's get into these questions, these things in this pod. So the first, thing that we'll be talking about is the franchise tag deadline. So the franchise tag deadline came July 15th, 2020. The players tagged was Shaq Barrett, Tampa Bay. He was tagged for $15.8 million. Kenyon Drake, transitional tag. He was tagged for $8.5 million, Arizona. Bud Dupree, linebacker. He was tagged for $15.8 million, Pittsburgh Steelers. AJ Green, Pro Bowler AJ Green, was tagged for $17.9 million, Cincinnati Bengals, wide receiver. Anthony Harris, safety, was tagged for $11.4 million, Minnesota Vikings. Hunter Henry, tight end, he was tagged for $10.6 million, and he plays for the Los Angeles Chargers. Matthew Judon was tagged for $16.8 million, and he plays for the Baltimore Ravens, linebacker. Hannick Anouk was tagged for $17.7 million, Jacksonville Jaguars, D-end. Dak Prescott, that's the main, star of this players that have been tagged. He was tagged for $31.5 million, and he plays for, Dallas Cowboys, QB. Brandon Sheriff, guard. He was tagged for $15 million, and he plays for the Washington Skins. Safety Justin Simmons, he was tagged for $11.4 million, and he plays for the Denver Broncos. Joe Trudy was tagged for $14.8 million, and he's a guard for New England Patriots. And Leonard Williams, D lineman, was tagged for $16.1 million, and he plays for the New York Giants. The other players that have been tagged was Derrick Henry, Tennessee Titans running back, and he signed a deal. His deal was for 4 years, $50 million, $25.5 million guaranteed, and that's basically $12.5 million a year. The other player that was tagged this year signed a deal also, and his name is Chris Jones, D tackle from Kansas City, and he signed a 4-year, $85 million deal, and that's $21.25 million a year. So, Mike, what are your thoughts on the players that were tagged and didn't sign a long-term deal? How do you feel about some of the players on this list?
Let's start with Leonard Williams because he's relative. He was drafted, I believe, 5th or 6th overall by the Jets. Didn't really live up to that draft status there because they thought he was out of USC, I believe.
Yes.
And he was expected to be like a pass rusher up the middle for them. Didn't really work out. Got traded last season to the Giants for a 3rd-round pick. Didn't really do much there. The Giants tagged him because they traded a 3rd-round pick and don't want to, just trade a 3rd-round pick, and then the guy's gone after the year. So they reached a deal, and I think they kind of came to agreement that they're just going to play it out on the tag and try to work out a long-term deal after the season, hopefully with a new system, new coaches, that he would play a little bit better. The Patriots guard, Joe Thuney, I'm not too sure about him. I don't know too much about him, but, I don't think the Patriots line was all that great last year. But, anytime you got a valuable guard or inside guard, anytime you got a offensive lineman, that's pretty good. You got to do what you can do to hang on to him because we know got to protect the quarterback.
Yeah.
Justin Simmons, I think he's a decent safety out of Denver.
Yeah,
I think they tried to work out a deal, wasn't really close. There was some chatter on Twitter that maybe he didn't want to be there, but then there's some local reporters kind of disputed that. But he has spoken out and said he wants to stay in Denver.
And basically, with Justin Simmons, he came on late. He was a surprise type of dude where he came on late. He wasn't a big name and whatever, and he made a name for himself last year of being a Pro Bowl or a Pro Bowl caliber safety.
Yes. And so moving on to Brandon Scherf from Washington. Not too familiar with him, but same thing like with the Thurney from New England. If you got a good offensive lineman, you got to do what you can do to keep him. Especially when they got the young quarterback in there, you need protection for Dwayne Haskins, so that way he can develop a little bit better. We got Yannick. Obviously, you have to tag him. He's a very young pass rusher at a premium position. Gets after the quarterback. I think he usually averages somewhere around 8.5 sacks a year, around there somewhere. I just don't like the way it's going back and forth on Twitter with the owner or the GM. That's not a good look, and I think that kind of hurt him as far as trade value a little bit. Some other teams, from what I've seen, may have didn't like the way he went about it. Again, I don't think he's going to play in Jacksonville. He said multiple times he's not going to play for them. He wants out. I did hear at the tag deadline some teams expressed interest in trading for him. Someone may have even offered a Pro Bowl player, but Jacksonville did not want to trade him. I think that situation's only going to get uglier as we get closer to the season.
And I think Jacksonville is so dumb. You don't want to sign this guy, right? Obviously. So you tag him, and so when you tag him, you're trying to get more for the guy. You don't want him. So my thing is, let him go. Don't try to get more compensation. I understand, you drafting him or whatever, but if you're trying to get more compensation for him, you might as well just let him play for the organization and give him a long-term deal.
Exactly. And we all know they're a rebuilding team as well. So if he doesn't want to be there and y'all don't want to sign him to what he wants to be, what he thinks he's worth, get what you can get for him, because you need all the ammunition you can to rebuild your team. But if you do feel that he's a franchise cornerstone, then you need to pay him what the market value is to get that. Because those young pass rushers, he's only 25 years old. And those young pass rushers, we know that's one of the most important positions besides left tackle and quarterback.
Yeah, but they get paid the most. Yeah, they get paid the most. But what I heard, they want like 2 number ones. Like, you can't. Come on.
Yeah, no, like, you're not going to get 2 number ones.
Compensation that compensation is so high. Come on.
Especially because the team trading for him would need to give him a new deal.
Yeah. You ain't
Nobody's
going
to give up 2 first-round picks. And you're not going to get what the Rams got for Jalen Ramsey, or you're not going to get that again. The Rams are just stupid for that, but that's a conversation for another day. You're not going to get that again. So, who else do we got on this list? Okay, going to my squad with Matthew Judon for the Ravens. There's a difference. I forget what they originally tagged him as. I think they originally tagged him as a defensive end because he kind of plays like that hybrid role. He plays sometimes he's in the dirt. They move him all around. Mm-hmm. So he was tagged at like $15 million originally. Yeah. I think there's a difference. The linebacker one's like $17 million, which is what Yannick was tagged at. Yeah. But they kind of came to an agreement, because so that way, to avoid a grievance, they met in the middle at 16.8. I like him. He's still relatively young. I think he's about 26, 27. He's a very good pass rusher. Had I believe 9.5 sacks last season for us. It's just a tricky situation with him because the Ravens have so many young players that are also up for contracts coming up within the next few years. As everybody knows, Lamar Jackson's going to be coming up, and there's a few other players. So it all comes down to who you want to pay, and we're going to see that as that plays out. Are they going to pay him at the end of this year? Or are they going to go for the other young players that might be at more important positions? We'll see. But I definitely think he's worth a long-term deal. He's still young. He gets after the quarterback. And he's good at setting the edge and as a run defender too. He does it all. They drop him in the coverage, so he's not just a pure pass rusher. Hunter Henry, I like the move to tag him because I think he's an underrated tight end. He doesn't get much love, but I think he's a very good tight end.
He's really good.
The question with him is he going to be healthy? Because I believe he's coming off a torn ACL.
Yep.
I believe. I know he
I
had a
had him in.
major injury at some
I had
point.
him in fantasy, and he was killing. Then he tore his ACL.
Who else do we got on here? Anthony Harris,
Yeah,
safety in Minnesota.
Yeah,
That's hard because with them, they got that other safety, I think Harrison Smith, and it's how much money do you want to invest into that position alone? Because I don't think teams value safety that much. I think as far as secondary, that value is more in the cornerback position is usually the one that gets paid more. So I don't know if they want to have two high-paying safeties long term. I'd have to go back and look at and see what Harrison Smith, his contract looks like, but I know he's one of the better safeties in the league.
He's one of the better safeties in the league, but he can't cover. He gets cooked by tight ends all the time.
He's more that box safety.
Yeah, he's more of a box safety. And now, like, they probably had to say, yo, look, Anthony Harris, man, he's the back end type dude. And they might go away from Smith. Like, they might be like, man.
Especially if he's younger, too.
Yeah,
if he's a little bit younger.
Yeah, because, man, Ertz was cooking him. Yo, when we played Minnesota, he was killing that dude. So yeah, they gonna look at Smith's contract and be like, nah, we ain't paying that, or they gonna trade him, or they gonna do something, because that's why they tagged him. For one, your defense, you have to have that back end intact. You can't get new people that come in at safety on the back end unless it's a Pro Bowl safety. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's very hard.
Yeah, it's very hard. If you have a Pro Bowl safety like a Matthew or you know, the dude that went to y'all from the Chargers.
Earl Thomas. The Ravens have been searching
Earl Thomas
for a safety.
And the other guy. What's the other guy?
Yeah.
Remember when he had the long beard that went to you guys?
Eric Weddle.
Yes.
Before
that, go ahead.
The Ravens, they've been searching for a safety since Ed Reid left. They haven't been. They had guys rotating in and out. They've been hard to find a reliable safety until they signed Eric Weddle.
Yep.
They tried signing Tony Jefferson. Didn't really work out too well. And I think he's a young, good player. He's still young. He's 27. Didn't really work out. Earl Thomas had a decent year last year. Maybe not up to his standards or what he's used to, but
your back end is still.
But it helped. It was still an upgrade over what we had.
Yep. You got to have something stability back there. You can't have we're gonna let Anthony Harris go, and then you got another bum back there getting burnt. You know what I'm saying? You can't have that. And this game, it's a passing game, so you have to say, look, we just gonna tag him for that $11.4 million, and that ain't even bad. Like, that $11.4 million, man, to me, that's a bargain.
Yeah, that's not a bit, especially if you're good at that position, because otherwise, like you said, you're just going to see Tyreek Hill running up down the sideline on you all day.
All day.
Next, who we got next on the list? We got AJ Green.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all know when he's healthy, he's a top 10, maybe even top 5 receiver in the league. I know he's been relatively last year. He didn't play last year. I know Joe Burrow really wanted him. Yeah. Joe Burrow knew he was getting drafted 1 overall. I don't care how long the Bengals wanted to play that. We all knew he was going number 1. I believe he said to them that he wants AJ Green on the team because, you know, he wants that number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
So that's a no-brainer to tag him. I don't know. He's still young. He's still not that old. I think he came in the same year as Julio. I think they're both between like 30 and 31. So
yeah.
I could see you could give him maybe Julio got a 3-year extension before last season, I believe. You could, you know, maybe look at that, maybe give him a little bit less or give him about there, like a 3-year deal. Yeah. That way, if he's 31, you sign him till he's 34. He's still, when he's healthy, you know he's one of the best. As a Ravens fan, we hate that guy because he kills us every year at the end, last minute touchdowns. He burns us. So he's definitely worth it, especially, you know, like you said, passing lead. You got your number 1 overall pick on a quarterback that just threw 60 touchdowns in his final college season. So that's a no-brainer right there. Bud Dupree of the Steelers, I think he was kind of a late bloomer. They took him in the first round.
Yeah.
I think he started out slow in his career, but last year he had a decent year. He had the contract year, so you know he turned up. And again, he's a pass rusher. Anytime you can get a good pass rusher, you need to hang on to them.
Yeah.
So it's going to be. I don't know what their cap situation usually does not look too good. So
because
I know
they had Ben.
They had to maneuver some space just to get him to be able to get him to fit in the cap on the franchise tag. They had to maneuver around a little bit. But I think he's worth it. If you can give him you got to look at what the market is. I think Zadarius Smith last year, a similar player. He was actually teammates with Bud Dupree in college at, I believe, is the University of Kentucky. Similar players. They played opposite each other. They both drafted in the same year. I believe Darius got a 4 or 5 year deal last year. And I think it was around $66 million. I think that's where the top end of the market was for pass rushers of that in that caliber, like a tier below the Yannicks and stuff like that. So I think if you get somewhere around there, I think it'd be a fair deal for him. But again, it's their cap situation, because they're a team that they love to restructure and push that money into the future, and
all the time
creates cap issues for the future. Kenyon Drake, he took off when he got traded last year. He got traded
he's always
from
been nice,
Miami,
though.
right?
From Miami, but he's always been nice.
He was just on a bad team, and they really didn't showcase his talent. And now they got a young quarterback there. They're loaded with receiver, and he came in their system and took over for David Williams.
The passing
and
game.
He's that back, and he just killed it. So it's just tricky again because the running back position is undervalued from teams. So, but I think $8.5 million for him.
But he ain't make that. He didn't even make that with his rookie contract. So that 8.5, he said, "Yep, I'm gonna sign that."
Exactly. So I think that's a good deal for him in 1 year. If he produces like he did last year, because he catches out of the back, and that kid can fly.
He can fly.
He can fly. So that's good. I like that move. Anytime you can get a little safety valve for your young quarterback like Kyler Murray, always a good move. And Shaquille Barrett, oh man, what did he have, like 18 sacks last year?
He's a beast.
Yeah, he's a star. You got to lock that up. Yeah. But how is their cap situation?
Trash.
After because they just signed Tom Brady for the next 2 years. I think he's like $30 million.
And they got
Gronk. And then remember, Mike Evans is on a big deal too. So it'd be interesting to see, but you got a guy that's getting you 18 sacks, 18 and a half sacks.
You can't give that up.
There's no excuse. You got to keep that. So that's a no-brainer to keep right there. This is a no-brainer. I believe that is all the guys that are on the franchise tag deadline. I know I waited to say Dak. That's going to be a much bigger conversation. So I purposely left him out of there. We ran through pretty much everybody else.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about AJ Green and his tag deal. So AJ Green, he was pushing to get traded throughout last year and the previous year. So the Eagles was looking at AJ Green. They wanted too much compensation. A lot of teams were looking at AJ Green. The Patriots was looking at AJ Green. Everybody was looking at him. So he came back in training camp. He was looking all right or whatever. And then he hurt his leg, foot, ankle or something. And so
I'm looking at his stats right now.
Yeah.
He obviously last year, 2019, he played no games.
No games.
He originally got hurt in 2018. He only played 9 games.
Mm-hmm.
He played 9 games, but he had 46 catches for 694 yards and 6 touchdowns. And his last healthy year was 2017. He played the full season, 16 games, 75 catches, 1,078 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So he's still giving you number 1 wide receiver production when he's healthy.
When he's healthy. It's just that question mark at that age. And then it's like, yo, is he going to be healthy for me? But even if he didn't sign this contract, right? If he didn't sign this franchise tag deal, he wouldn't have got $17.9 million at all. He probably wouldn't have got that in 2 years. Like, if you are hurt and you coming off injury, he probably would have had to take a prove it deal. He probably would have signed a $6 million deal, and then the incentives would have ballooned it to like $11 million or something. But no team would have gave him that. And his agent is smart. Like, look, just sign that $17.9 million. You know what I'm saying? And then go ahead.
Aside from these major injuries, even with the little ones, he's only played 16 games. I'm looking at it here, four times in his career, and his rookie year was 2011. So since then, he's only played a full season,
and he's been hurt. He's been hurt. Like he's been hurt, but when he goes out there, he does give it his all and he does ball. But AJ Green, he has been hurt throughout his career.
So I do understand why teams would be hesitant to give up a high pick, and then pay him because I feel like with him, it's got to be like an incentivized deal to an extent because you still want to pay him because he's still, what he's capable of.
He's capable.
But you do want to throw a little bit of incentives in there because you got to protect yourself in the event, he's not there. But again, we all know he's arguably a top 5, definitely top 10 receiver when he's fully healthy.
When he's fully healthy. Do you have any, thoughts on Henry and Jones?
Henry, let's start there with Henry. That's actually not that bad of a deal. I looked at, I use a website called spotrac.com, and this guy that does it, he's really good with breaking down contracts, salary cap. And I looked at his breakdown of the Derrick Henry deal. So he signed 4-year and $50 million contract with, I believe, $12 million in bonuses and $15 million total in the first year alone of 2020. Yeah. He's fully guaranteed $25.5 million through 2021. So after that, if it doesn't work out, they could realistically get out of that deal in 2 years. Yeah. Realistically, they could get out after 2021. After that $25 million guaranteed, they could get out of that.
And you got to look at the front office. The front office know what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? They top load the deal. they get out of it, if they need to get out of it. And that's one thing that the Eagles always did, man. They front load it. And when you're not good or you break down and your guarantees are up, you either can re-up the next year, but, you want a year-to-year, contract. And yes.
Like his cap hit for 2020 is only $6 million. Yeah. A $3 million bonus, $3 million base. He's only 26 years old.
Yeah.
And I know he's got a lot of carries. So you look at his 2019, he had 303 carries. But he's also a little bit different of a back though, because he's a big back. He's like 245 pounds.
6'3".
So he's always been able to handle that workload. Yeah. And think about it, even if he plays out the full 4 years, he's still 30 years old. So it's not like you're signing him a 4-year deal at 30 where he's all right. Now he's going to start to decline. He's still in the prime of his career.
Yeah, and that 12.5 mil.
His cap hit in 2021. It's $13.5 million in 2021 as his cap.
That's
so
nothing.
Realistically, and again, he was your best offensive player last year. That was your offense. He had 1,500 yards, led the league in yardage. He had 16 touchdowns. He averaged 5.1 yards a carry. That's your bell cow. Yeah. They needed to get that done.
And I think that Tennessee, how they did the deals when they signed the quarterback, I don't think he's that good, the quarterback that they signed.
Yeah, he took off last year.
Yeah,
I always thought he was kind of talented, but I didn't really fully trust him. I don't like talking about it, as you know, what he did to my Ravens in the playoffs last year. That's a little bit of a sore spot. They got us. But
you signed him to a cheap deal. Like, you got him on cheap. Like, okay, he's an okay quarterback, but at the same time, now your coach is a defensive coach. They putting all that money into the defense and the offensive line. So your main two best players, your quarterback and your running back, like, you got them on cheap deals. Now you can just splurge on the defense and the offensive line. I think whoever is in that front office, they doing an excellent job over there.
Yeah, they are doing a good job because, like you said, the best two players, the quarterback, and the way their offense is set up to run through Derrick Henry, and Tannehill builds off of that. Tannehill's contract's, and it's not even that long either. It's 4 years and it's $118 million. Mm-hmm. So realistically, out of the two, I'd be more worried about that contract than the Derrick Henry one. I actually like the Derrick Henry contract. And we know with Henry, he seems to get better as the season goes on.
Yep.
As the season goes on, he gets better. Nobody wants to hit him when that weather gets cold. The defenses start getting tired. They get worn down. Nobody wants to hit him. Let's look at the other guy here from Kansas City, Chris Jones.
Beast.
So he signed a good deal for him. 4 years, about $80 million, I think it says a year, according to Spotrac.com again. $60 million is total guaranteed, with 37 guaranteed at the signing. So he's making on an average $20 million. I was looking at his stats. ESPN has him listed as a defensive end, but I was watching some of his highlights on YouTube, and it looked like they rush him from the middle a lot.
Yeah.
So, which that's very valuable. If you get that interior rusher, like we all see what Aaron Donald can do in that, and that can
and
collapse line. That's the exactly Fletcher Cox in there, another one of those top interior rushers. That is when you collapse the pocket from the middle and you don't allow that quarterback to move up and step into his throw. That really messed with him. I mean, I think it's a good deal. He had, like, if you go back to 2018, he had 15.5 sacks. Even last year, a little bit down from that, 9 sacks, but still, especially from the interior, that's very good. He's got 33 sacks in 61 career games. 26 years old. So you're signing him through the prime of his deal.
Yep.
And I think if you look at the DeForest Buckner deal that he got from Indianapolis after his trade is a comparable deal. I was looking him up because I thought, I was like, they both play same position.
Yeah.
Chris Jones is a big guy. He's 6'6", 310 pounds.
Beast.
Buckner is a 6'7", 295 pounds. They're both 26 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Buckner got a little bit more. He got four more million. He got 4-year, $84 million deal. But he had he has in his career 28.5 sacks. So I think they're comparable players. Both comparable numbers. So I think that's why you see why Chris Jones and with their defense they need it. The only thing with Buckner though, he if you look at last year, that D line in San Francisco was absolutely loaded. Chris Jones has Frank Clark on his D line, but he doesn't have the D line that Buckner has. So I think it is a little more impressive that he was able to do what he did with that in Kansas City because the majority of the talent's on that offense, but they do have some talent on that defense.
Nah, they've been building the defense. Like they slowly built the defense, and everybody.
You got Tyrann Mathieu there at the back end.
So everybody basically, what they did on offense, they basically drafted everybody almost on the offense, and they signed Sammy Watkins. Everybody else that's on that offense, they drafted
all homegrown.
Yeah, they just homegrown. Now on the defense, they had to patch it together. They had to get Tyrann Mathieu on the back end and a couple of corners that they have. But that organization
was traded from. He came from Seattle.
Yep.
Seattle didn't want to pay him.
Didn't want to pay him, and they got his deal done early. As soon as he got traded over, they signed him to that deal. Yep. Like they know what they're doing,
and it worked out.
Yeah. Yep. They know what they're doing how they hide money and how they do all of this stuff. It's the same way that the Eagles did it back in the day. They know what they're doing, man. They put everything in bonuses, and then when your base salary comes out, you only making like $6 million on your base salary, or not even $10 million on your base salary. So that cap hit is not even a lot.
No, they're doing it right because you think about all the guys. I'm sitting there thinking, like, how do they have the cap for all this? Because you signed, Mahomes, Chris Jones, Watkins got a decent deal, but I think he took a little bit of a pay cut.
Yeah, they restructured.
Kelsey has been paid. Tyreek Hill, he got a good sized contract, but again, they're all young players. They got a very they're going to be good for a year.
They hide the money.
Team, mm-hmm.
In the roster, they hide the money in the roster bonuses and stuff. So when April 28th comes up and it's the new league year, that's when the person gets paid. Just like Aaron Rodgers, that's how they hiding Aaron Rodgers money. And he ain't against the cap like that. It's all included in the roster, man. They geniuses. Some of these dudes on these teams, man, that are cap guys, they know how to hide the money and how to work it and everything else. It's crazy.
You have to. Again, they're going to be a top team in this league not just because they got Pat Mahomes, but they structured those deals where they can keep them all together.
Yep.
And through the prime of their careers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now leading up to the elephant in the room, Dak's deal not getting done. I have a lot of thoughts on that, and I just think that the Cowboys are so dumb on not signing him to a long-term deal because the fit, he fits like a glove. He came in, he was a 4th-round pick. His rookie contract has been a bargain for the last 4 years. So you didn't have to pay him top quarterback money, and he's been winning, taking you to the playoffs, selling merch, selling all of this stuff and you making all this money off of this man. You know what I'm saying? He put his neck on the line when Cap was kneeling, and he said, "Oh, I'm not going to kneel," and everything else just for the organization. He could have did a lot of things that was wrong. He could have backhand the organization a few times, but he didn't. And he's been a stand-up guy, and I just think how they're doing this guy is so wrong. Now, to me, do I think he's top quarterback status or in that, elite quarterback? No, I don't think so. But for the Cowboys, is he an elite quarterback and he knows how to run that system? I think he is. And so you need to pay him just like the elite top guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think it was a slap in the face to him. And when he came out and said, oh, he wanted 40 mil, everybody was like, oh, he's bugging and this and that. But then again, when we get into Pat Mahomes deal, you know why he said 40 mil in the beginning. Because the cap is just going to go up, and quarterbacks is going to make more money in the coming years. So to me, I just think that the Cowboys did him wrong, man. For real. They did him real wrong. What's your thoughts on that, Mike?
Well, I agree with a lot of what you said there. I think Dak I think he's a little bit underrated. I mean, especially, growing up in this area, living in the Philadelphia area out here in South Jersey, obviously everybody knows the rivalry between the Eagles and Cowboys.
Yeah.
Fans hate each other. They hate each other. I all understand. And obviously, all the Eagles fans think he's terrible. You hear them trash him all the time. While I don't I agree with you. I don't think he's in that top tier, like with Mahomes, Watson, Russell Wilson. I don't think he's in that tier of quarterbacks. I think he's in that notch below. Yeah. But I do think he's better than a lot of people give him credit for. And I do agree with you that I think Dallas should have signed him. They should have been able to work something out. I know a lot of teams right now are concerned about giving out large contracts because they're unsure about the losses during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I understand a little bit there, but again, I agree with you. I think he should have been paid with a long-term deal. So he's making 31.4. So either way, he's making out. If you think about it though, because if he plays on back-to-back tags, he makes $69 million through these 2 years.
69.
But I also understand he want like everybody wants. You want that long-term financial security. So, he knew what Pat Mahomes was going to get because being in those NFL circles, they know what's going to happen before we do. So that's why, like you said, that 40 mil was thrown out there because he knew Mahomes was going to get 45, and he wants, and everybody knows he's going to be below because nobody should get anywhere close to Pat Mahomes because he's on another level. But from what I heard, and there's a reporter. She works for the NFL Network. She covers Dallas. Her name's Jane Slater. She's been reporting that one of the sticking points is Dak wanted a 4-year deal while the team wants to give him a 5-year deal. And I think he wants that 4-year deal because he is 26, 27, yep. I think. So that way he can go back and double dip and get another big contract when he's like 31, 32. But I that part throws me off because even if he signs the 5-year deal and gives him an extra year, if you live up to that deal, you're still going to get paid regardless. Because if you look at Aaron Rodgers got a $100 million deal at the age of, 35 or 36?
Yep.
Matt Ryan got it at 32 a few years ago. Brady just got paid. Obviously, he's the GOAT. He just got paid. Ben got an extension at 38. So you can get, as a quarterback, if you live up and you play top tier, you can get paid in your
Ryan Tannehill got signed to a deal. Come on, man.
You can get another one at that age because
we get another one.
I would say Dak. I would rather have Dak as my quarterback than, especially like you said, he fits in with that offense. Yeah, I think he threw a little bit more than he should have last year because we all know that offense runs through Zeke. He's the best player on that team.
Zeke, best player on that team.
Dak, I think even like you said, he's a 4th round pick. I think he's outperformed his draft because nobody thought he was going to be this good. Was he a Pro Bowler right off the bat there? Yep. So I definitely think he should have got
paid. Took him to the playoffs. He had over 4,000 passing yards. He got the touchdowns. He don't throw a lot of picks. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I'm an Eagles fan, but he has his stats. His stats is better than Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz got a deal.
I'm glad you brought up Carson Wentz here, because I went in, I got Dak's stats from 2019, 2018, and his career numbers, as well as the same numbers for Carson Wentz. I got all these stats off NFL.com, and they are very similar.
Yeah, it's similar.
The only difference is Dak has more games, because Dak has not missed a game in his career, and that is the best. That is your best attribute is availability.
That's what it
Wentz
is.
has 56 career games, while Dak has 64. So their career stats in 64 games, Dak has a 65.81 completion percentage.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 15,778 yards, averages about 7.6 yards per attempt, with 97 touchdowns to 36 interceptions.
Yep.
And with Wentz here, in 56 games, his completion percentage is 63.8%, with 14,191 yards, 97 touchdowns to 35 interceptions.
Yeah.
So both comparable. They're both around the same age. And I'm looking here at Wentz's deal, according to Spotrac.com. You know, he signed a 4-year, $128 million extension.
$32 million a year.
Yeah, exactly. $32 million a year. It starts when he's 28, because it starts at the end of his rookie deal, and he signed through 2024 when he's 31 years old.
Yeah, it kicks in this year.
I think Dak should get a comparable contract. Now, I think we can both agree Wentz is more talented.
Yeah.
And he had less talent to work with last year due to injuries, and with Jackson getting hurt and Alshon getting hurt. So he did a little bit more with less. And like you said, we both agree that Wentz is probably a little bit more talented. But
Dak is available.
He's available. You throw that durability factor in there.
Durability. And to me, yes, what do I think? I think Dak has the numbers. Yes, their numbers is comparable, but I think Dak's numbers is slightly better based off the durability factor. But I will say that
not all their losses are all on him either. Because you got to remember, their defense isn't all that good.
Yeah. And I think Dak should make more than Wentz based on the durability factor. What Dallas was trying to do with Dak, I understood it. So basically, they were trying to fit Dak within Jared Goff and Aaron Rodgers. So that $33.5 million, right? They were trying to fit him into that frame. He's looking at it as like, nah, I'm better than Goff. You know what I'm saying? I got the numbers better than him. I'm durable, which Goff is durable as well. But he's looking at Goff like, nah, I'm better than Goff, man. Let me make a little bit more money. And especially, see, what Dallas is doing wrong, they're going by the past quarterbacks that got their deals. You can't go about that. You got to go with what the future holds. You can't say, oh, Carson Wentz made this and then Jared Goff made this, and so we're going to pay you comparable to those deals. Now, they just messed themselves up because Patrick Mahomes just reset the market. They could have got a deal done. They could have paid him $36 million. Like, oh, we'll give you $36 million, boom, 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 with incentives. It can go up to this or whatever. But now you got to catch Patrick Mahomes. And yes, to me, Dak's agent is smart as hell because he knew that deal was coming. And his agent is Todd France, and his agent has Fletcher Cox, Donald, and Hopkins. So Hopkins about to get a big deal. Donald got his deal. Cox got his deal. So he don't have some agent that doesn't know what's going on, and his agent like, nah, we can get bigger money. Like, come on. Now, if Dak was on the market, come on, you know the Raiders will go after Dak. Come on.
Oh, easily.
Because
John Gruden, from what I hear, does not too thrill with Derek Carr. That's why they went out and signed Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
But with Dak, and another point is, say he goes out and balls out this year. Say he goes out and wins the Super Bowl. Now that 33 to 35 that you may have been able to get done, Now you're talking like that up to that 45, like Pat Mahomes just got. So
it's 45, man.
We saw that with Joe Flacco back in the day. The Ravens tried to sign him, but the year before he won the Super Bowl, before he was going to that last year of his deal, and I think I heard somewhere they came close to an agreement, somewhere around 80 to 90 million. They were close on, but they were off by a couple million. They couldn't bridge the gap. He goes out and wins the Super Bowl. Now you're talking 120 million.
Now you got to bridge it.
Exactly. So if that goes out and balls out again, then he's good. And I did, again, going back to Jane Slater, she was tweeting out the other day at the deadline that Dak had told her that he had spoken to Stephen Jones last minute. They were trying to get a deal done. And they just ran out of time. And the potential last minute deal it doesn't say how many years, said it was worth about 33 to 35 million between there on average per year, with $110 million guaranteed, a $50 million signing bonus, and $70 million total in the first 2 years. She did say that Dak disputed some of those numbers. Didn't say which ones, but that's according to Jane Slater.
Yeah, and that was the rumor that I heard too.
So they almost had a deal. I think that would have been great if they could have got that done. Because,
but see, again, like when we was hearing about all of this, all these rumors, the one rumor that came out was the rumor that Dallas offered 5 years, 175. So that's 35 million. That puts him around Russell Wilson, right up there with the top QBs right now. But the thing that's hanging everything up is when the cap goes up or Pat Mahomes deal. They must have had inklings of Pat Mahomes deal where they was like, nah, we're not going to do that. Again, it just goes back.
So the main thing I heard was that he wanted a 4-year deal while the Cowboys wanted a 5-year deal. That's the main thing I heard.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, though, Dak has no excuse, especially with the talent he has around him. You got Amari Cooper long-term. Michael Gallup's he was a solid number 2. Now he's going to be your number 3 because you get arguably the best receiver in the draft in C.D. Lamb. You already got a top running back in Zeke Elliott. He does it all. He can run, he catches. He does it all. He's there, durable, and they got a very solid offensive line. So there's no excuse for Dak not to be able to at least win the division and make the playoffs. There's no excuse for that now.
They ain't winning no division. They can make the playoffs, but they ain't winning no division.
I'm sure any Eagles fan will tell you that. I'm not here saying that they are going to go out and win the division.
Yeah,
but I'm saying there's no excuse on his end because you got all that talent to work with. As long as everybody's healthy, there's no excuse. In that game that you guys had, the low scoring game, I think they put up 9 points against you guys. I think in that last game.
Yeah,
with that talent, that's just inexcusable right there.
And I know your
defense is pretty good, but
but they blame the offensive coordinator and everything else. But I watched that game, and Dak was under pressure. He couldn't throw the ball that game. I don't know if he was playing hurt or whatever, but it was a lot of balls that was late or underthrown or overthrown. And I don't know what he was going through.
And that's also been the big knock on Dak is when he plays these playoff caliber teams, they usually do not win those games. That's another thing we need to see from Dak is not just beating up on the teams. Obviously you need to beat the teams that aren't good. Obviously that's no question. But now you got to take it a step further and beat these playoff caliber teams. You need to beat the Eagles. If you don't beat the Eagles, there's no chance of Dallas winning that division. Yeah. So I think it's going to come down to a 2-team between the Eagles and Cowboys. That's going to be the division right there. So if you don't beat the Eagles, you're not winning the division right there. But you also need to beat the other top teams. I don't know exactly what their schedule is. I know they got a big game late in the season against the Ravens, which I don't think they're winning that one. But they need to beat the teams like that if they're going to take that next step. Now, I don't think their defense is very good. They lost arguably their best defensive player in Byron Jones. So there's even more pressure on Dak and the offense to put up those numbers now.
Yeah, and you can't put everything on rookies because they had a good draft. I'm not going to hate on the Cowboys, but they had a great draft.
Yeah, I like their draft. I think they had a solid draft. I like they got that Alabama cornerback in the second round, which
Diggs
they needed
brother.
A corner to replace.
Stephon Diggs' brother. That's who they drafted.
Again, anytime. I don't think that they planned on CeeDee Lamb, because I think we all thought CeeDee Lamb was going to be gone way before them.
Yeah.
So I think that just fell into their lap, and at that point, like that's just a no-brainer right there. So, but I do think they're a very talented team, and I think it's going to come down to that late season game between Dallas and Eagles, like it usually does. The winner of that game is most likely going to win the division.
Yes, sir. So, the next topic we want to touch on is the Patrick Mahomes deal. This deal,
did he get paid?
He got paid. This deal is the biggest deal in NFL history or sports history in general. So, the report from Adam Schefter, when it came out, the deal was worth up to $450 million over a 10-year period and could be worth up to $503 million. The extension includes $140 million injury guarantee, as well as no trade clause. Come on, man. He's getting $140, even if he gets hurt. Like, that's unprecedented, man. Like, they saying, yo, we love you so much. This organization, you show this organization everything, and we gonna show you everything. And they are giving him $140 million if he gets hurt due to injury. Come on, man. Like, you do you see the difference in organizations from the Cowboys and then the Chiefs? They paying their homegrown players, man. Like, they giving him a deal. And I'm not saying that, oh, his agent went in there and asked for all this. No, it was both sides. You don't get a deal like this if it wasn't both sides negotiating. And I think that
absolutely not a contract of that size.
No, and I think that the organization was like, here, this is the deal we gonna give you. I don't even think his agent had to do anything. What do this deal? What did his agent have to say?
I mean, if somebody comes to you and offers you $450 million, you're not saying, let's face it. And I've heard, and that's what I don't understand. I hear a lot of people say, oh, why would you sign for 10 years? You're like, with the way the TV contracts are going to go up. I'm going to look you dead in the eye and ask you, if someone hands you a contract for $450 million over 10 years, are you saying no? Absolutely not. If you say no to that, you're lying. You're lying if you say that. Everybody in their right, everybody's taking that.
He's making more than a baseball player right now. This is more than baseball money.
This is baseball, but the comparable contract that he got would be Mike Trout. Mike Trout signed a 12-year extension for, I think it was $426. So he even got more than Mike Trout.
That's what I'm saying.
He got it on shorter term. So he's making
this
more.
This is the biggest deal in sports history, man.
It's crazy. It's worth up to $503 million. Now, it's not going to get to the $503 million, and I'll get into why.
Yeah.
Again, I looked at the breakdown on Spotrac. So the 10-year extension is $450 million. If you add the 2 years left on his rookie deal, it's $477 million through the 12 years. Now he's got $25 million in incentive bonuses tied to this contract. I think it goes from 2022 to 2031. Mm-hmm. There's a $1.25 million bonus for every AFC championship game he wins and gets to the Super Bowl, and a $1.25 million bonus for winning the NFL MVP. When you combine those two, it adds up to an extra 25. That's how you get to that 503.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's unrealistic to get to the Super Bowl and win MVP every year.
But he's going to get there at least 5 out of 10. He might get there.
Exactly. So he will hit some of those bonuses.
Yeah.
So, but again, I think it's unrealistic to hit that every year. But he's going to win multiple MVPs, and he's probably going to win at least another one, maybe two to three more Super Bowls. I mean, he's only 24 years old, so to me, that's a no-brainer. He's head and shoulders the best quarterback in the league.
Best quarterback in the league.
Best player in the league.
Yep.
You're a Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl MVP, a league MVP at 24 years old.
Crazy.
That is unheard of. He was the youngest MVP at the time, I think, other than until Lamar Jackson just broke that this past year. But again, you just won the MVP, the Super Bowl MVP, and you're coming off in a season where you dislocated your knee.
Yeah.
You came back and didn't even miss a beat.
Didn't miss a beat, yo.
No, the talent on that kid is ridiculous, from the arm strength. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember back in 2018 watching the Ravens and Chiefs go back and forth. We held them down. It was a low scoring game for them. And this was in Pat's MVP year where he had 50 touchdowns. And we're looking at a 4th and 9 or a long 4th down. If they don't get it, game's over. Ravens win. They're chasing him around. He's running to the sideline. It's a cold day in Kansas City, and he's up. And for the life of me, I had no idea why C.J. Mosley was in the vicinity trying to cover Tyreek Hill, because you don't put a linebacker on Tyreek Hill. But he threw that ball on a dime, running off to the side, threw it across the field. No other quarterback's making that throw. Any other quarterback makes that throw, that's an interception. Nobody has the arm strength that he does to make that throw, and then they go on and win the game. So it's unreal how it's not even. There's no one even close to Pat Mahomes.
Nobody.
So I absolutely love this deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it in 3. I mean, really in 2 years, because his rookie year that he got drafted, he only started that, I think, the final game of the season because they were resting Alex Smith going into the playoffs. And so really in like 2 years, he's got 9,412 yards with 76 touchdowns to 18 interceptions, and that's in 31 games.
That's crazy.
He's done that already in 31 games.
If he gets the full deal, we're just going to speak on if he gets the full deal.
At the bare minimum, if he plays out this deal, at the bare minimum, he's getting $477 million.
Yes. So say if it does play out the deal and he hits all the incentives, that's $50.3 million per year. That's crazy. And the deal starts in
his average salary is about $45 million. He's averaging per year.
So the deal starts in 2022. He'll be 26. For right now, this is the best bargain contract for the next 2 years. So this year,
hands down,
that's
not even a question.
He makes $2.8 million this year for a former MVP and a Super Bowl champion and an MVP in the Super Bowl, right? Didn't he get MVP in the Super Bowl?
Yes, he did.
That's crazy. He's making $2.8 million. And then next year, 2021, the 5th year option kicks in. He's making 24.8. That's undervalued. So what the Chiefs just did, the Chiefs was like, look, we going to pay you in the back end because you just gave us a chip. You've been taking us to the playoffs. Like, come on, man. They rewarding this guy, man. This franchise is rewarding their guy, their homegrown guy.
He just gave them their first Super Bowl in like 15 years.
And they did the deal. They did the deal 2 years early. We did the deal with Wentz 1 year early, but they did the deal with him 2 years early. Like, come on, man. Like a team doing that.
You're eligible to sign an extension after your 3rd year, and that's exactly what they did. It's the 3rd year descendant. You won that Super Bowl because they know as long as he's healthy, he's going to more Super Bowls.
Yeah, he's going to more Super Bowls.
With that young core. I mean, even Travis Kelce, he's only 30 years old. The rest of them, Hill, Watkins, like 25, 27 years old, around that age. So they're all young. That team is loaded. Assuming everybody's healthy, I'd be comfortable saying they're probably going to be an AFC Championship game again this year, I would say.
Just when I'm going to break the Chiefs down to, Pat Mahomes is the engine. And that's like a Lamborghini engine, right? So once you have this engine, this high-powered engine, right, you can put whatever you want around the car. That engine's still going to move. So, yeah, if Tyreek Hill goes down, they just going to pop, boom. Let's pop this headlight in here, right here, man. We got the engine.
Yeah, McCole Hardman, the enter McCole Hardman, who they drafted. Yeah. And they drafted him because Tyreek Hill was going through some off-the-field issues where they weren't sure if they were even going to have him. Yeah. And he comes in.
But they always draft
another
well.
4-3 kid.
Yeah, but they always draft well. So, to me, this deal, it solidifies your whole franchise, basically. You know what I'm saying? And his rookie contract was 4 years, $16.4 million, $10 million signing bonus, right? His agent was one of the best agents in the 1980s and the 1990s, Lee Steinberg. He's 71 now. So the past QBs that he had signed under him as an agent was Steve Young and Troy Aikman. So you know what he did with them boys. Like, he got them boys deals. And one notable name that he really had was one of the best running backs ever in the National Football League was Edgerrin James. So
he just got in the Hall of Fame, didn't he?
Yeah, and they had a write-up about Lee Steinberg, and he was so happy with Edgerrin James getting in and stuff. So he did deal with a lot of low moments in his career, Lee Steinberg, that derailed his career in the 2000s. So he had alcoholism, divorce, bankruptcy, litigations, and DUIs. So the litigation was he had to get out of an agency business with one of the guys, and he had to go through litigation to get out of that contract. And so recently he came back to be an agent, and now he has 23 clients. And his two biggest clients is Mahomes and Tua. So, like, he has one of the top agents ever that was in the National Football League. But like we said, that agent really ain't had to do much when you're working with a top flight organization.
All he has to do is go, look, my guy's 24 years old. He won the MVP, had one of the top offensive seasons of a quarterback ever. Now he just won your first Super Bowl in over 50 years. He won the Super Bowl MVP. I mean, there's not really much else you have to do at that point.
Yeah, you can't say nothing. He
got
all the stats.
Going to go, oh no, we're going to let him play out his deal and see how he does. No, they're not going to do that.
Like, he got all the stats. He got everything. He got all the accolades.
And like you said, it's smart to do it now early, because in a couple years, when the TV revenue and the caps go up, he could just turn around and say, now I want even more money. So again, it's smart. And I think the way they structured it, the Chiefs can't get out of it no matter what, pretty much. They'd be taking a dead cap of like 50 million. Again, there's no reason to want to get out of it. You got this kid locked up. There's no reason to want to get out of it. But it's still somewhat team friendly. And Pat even came out and spoke about it and said he wanted to obviously he wants to get as much money as he can, but he wanted to keep it somewhat team friendly so he can keep that team around him, so he can continue going to the Super Bowl. This is a young kid who's very smart, knows what he's doing. He seems like a good all around dude off the field too. So there's no off the field concerns with him. You know he's going to take care of himself. He's not going to give you any troubles there. So all around, this is just a good deal. And he signed till he's like 36, 37. And, you know, we got Brady and Breeze at like 41 and 42. So he might even still be able to get another year or two at the end of this deal when it's all said and done, if he chooses to play that long and stays healthy enough. Like, we're talking about a kid that could potentially be the greatest quarterback ever if he keeps continuing on the trajectory that he's on. He could pass Peyton Manning and Brady and all them as far as touchdowns and yards if he continues playing it the way he's playing, because I don't even think they were on the pace that he's on.
Yeah. So how they structured this new deal is crazy. So the first year of his deal in 2022, he's getting $1.5 million, his base salary, and everything else is within the roster, like the roster bonuses and everything else. So that's crazy. And then the next year, 2023, he's getting $5.5 million. That's his base. 2024, he's getting $2.5 million. 25, $2.5 million. 26, $2.5 million. 27, he'll get $10 million. 28, he'll get $13 million. And that's when he's 32. 2029, he'll get $20 million with his base. And that's and how they structured it, when he get 32, 33, 34, 35, and his base number will be going up, that's, you know, Tyreek Hill and all of those players won't even be on a roster. You know what I'm saying? And it'll be just him basically taking up that roster or that cap number in his base salary. But his base salary is still low. So when he's 33 and in 2029, he'll get $20 million. And 2030, 4 years of age, he'll get $27 million. 2031, he'll make $38 million, and that's all base salary, and everything else will be kickers.
And that's not including his roster bonus, which is in 2031, which is another $13.9 million on top of that. So he's signed. He's not a free agent at this point until 2032.
Yeah, 2032, and basically, they protected themselves with the cap situation on, his base salary of the cap. Everything else can be hidden, can be given back in a signing bonus because it's a roster bonus. Like, they know what they're doing. They can just move money, and it ain't even gonna hurt the cap. It's gonna relieve some of that stuff.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to keep some of his guys around, so it just makes it even better to him because the more of his guys he can keep around, his numbers are going to stay the same, and he's going to keep doing his thing. So this is an all-around, in my view, this is an all-around great deal. Yeah. It's an absolute no-brainer, 100%, because you know what you got. You great kid, awesome quarterback, best in the league. It's just absolute no-brainer right there.
No-brainer. So the next subject that I want to get into is Andy Reid. A lot of light need to be shined on Andy Reid in this situation. To me, I really think that he's the best or one of the best quarterback gurus ever. He moved up to the 10th pick, 2017 draft, to draft this kid from Buffalo. Yes, they paid a hefty price, but at the same time, that compensation you don't even worry about that compensation because you won a chip. So they dealt the number 27th pick in the draft that year, 2017, and a third round pick. And then they gave up their first round pick in 2018 to move up 17 spots in this draft. And no one knew about Patrick Mahomes. They thought he was going in the second round or maybe the third round or maybe at the end of the first round. A lot of things I heard
about him is they thought maybe he was going to be a project. Like nobody thought he was going to be this
No
guy.
one.
I mean, imagine being the Bears right now sitting there. Oh, I got Mitch Trubisky at third overall, and the Chiefs, got this kid.
Yeah.
What was it? Like 7-8 spots later, and you get a potential Hall of Famer, and the Bears got
and no one knew about this guy. No, like when I seen them, I'm like, they were when we was watching the draft, we was texting back and forth. We was like, yo, don't they got Alex Smith?
Alex Smith.
Yeah, and you was like, yeah. We was like, they needed more than just this quarterback. They needed a whole D and everything else. But what we don't know is Andy Reid knows what he's doing. He got Tyreek Hill. He got all those dudes, man. And he's seen something in this guy to say, yo, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks ever. And that's what I'm telling you about Andy Reid. He's the best quarterback guru, man, I think, in NFL history. To see that. And then in the first year, Pat Mahomes sat his whole first year. And like you said, he only played the last game so they can rest Alex Smith. And then the next year, in 2018, they traded Alex Smith. And what happened? Dude's an MVP. Come on, man. Like, you not understanding, like, that don't happen. That just don't happen from people projecting him to be a project to then being an MVP the next year. Come on, man. That's crazy.
I mean, look at the turnaround he had with Michael Vick and helped him become more of a pocket passer later in his career when he was with the Eagles.
Yeah. So,
I mean, and he said he came out and did an interview recently after the Mahomes deal and said he's not ready to give it up yet. He's ready to go in the 70s. He's ready to ride it out with Pat Mahomes.
He got to, man.
As good as an offensive coach as Andy Reid is and quarterback Mahomes is, that's a marriage made in heaven.
Yep. He's everything.
It's just unreal.
He's everything. He's everything that Andy Reid wants in a quarterback, right? So Andy Reid worked with Brett Favre, D. Nab, Michael Vick. He drafted Nick Foles, Alex Smith, and many more quarterbacks throughout his years, right? And basically, Pat Mahomes is all of those quarterbacks in one. He can run.
Yeah,
he can throw.
A funny little story I got for you on Brett Favre. Yeah. I was watching a video a little bit ago, and I didn't say what part of his career it was, but there was a point in his career where he didn't even know what the nickel defense was. He said he went to his backup quarterback. He called him Ty. I'm not sure who it was, but he goes, yo, Ty, what's a nickel defense?
Mm.
He didn't even know what a nickel defense. The guy goes, oh, that's where they take a linebacker out and put an extra DB, and he goes, shit, that's it? Who the fuck cares? I thought that was a little funny about Brett Favre there, but yeah, he's won with all of them. Yeah, Brett Favre, he wasn't his head coach. I think he was the offense coordinator under Mike Holmgren back in those days. But I mean, think about it. Donovan McNabb, when the Eagles drafted him, what did all the fans do? They booed that pick big time. But yet, Andy
Reid ain't start his first year. He started like the last 6 games or something. But he would sprinkle him in once in a while in the offense to get him acclimated in the NFL setting. But he's seen something in Donovan McNabb. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, like, and how many NFC Championship games did they go to?
Man, 4. Like, we was killing in the 2000s, man. And I'm
how many wide receivers did y'all have? You had
0.
Brad X and Todd Pinkston.
Yeah, 0. It might have been 5. It might have been 5 NFC Championship games, because I remember that.
Yeah, because they went to the Super Bowl the one year.
Yeah,
the
one year
and won.
And then we did play Arizona one year, and we lost against Arizona, and that was late when we had Jackson.
Vic?
No, we might have had Vic. I can't remember if that was the Vic year or whatever, but I know D Nab played, and we had Deshaun Jackson and another receiver. His name is Macklin.
That was the year Arizona
Jeremy
went
Macklin.
To the Super Bowl Macklin. That was the year Arizona went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Steelers.
Yeah, and they beat us.
So I was happy to see Andy Reid get his Super Bowl this year. I was rooting for him. I mean, I think he deserved it as far as, he went to the NFC Championship game 5 times. He went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots. Yeah. I think it was nice to see him finally get it, because, I mean, even without this Super Bowl, I would have said he's a Hall of Fame coach. Yeah. Some people kind of gave him that knock because he didn't have the Super Bowl. Now there's no question. There's no debate.
Andy Reid, he's going after it now.
What he's done, he's getting into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's going after it now.
There's no question. He's one of the best offensive coaches. I mean, you just look at his system. He puts up numbers every year. Again, you go back to the years with the Eagles where they didn't have all these great wide receivers, but I mean, you had Brian Westbrook out there, and we all know how good of a running back he is.
Yeah.
And they drafted this kid, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, out of LSU, who's a similar style running back to
and I guarantee
Brian Westbrook.
He's going to be killing.
That's another dimension that this Chiefs offense is going to have. And it's just like, do they really need another? Like,
and you know who called Andy Reid? You know who called Andy Reid and said, yo, Andy, this is the guy I want. They talked to Mahomes. They said, yo, Mahomes, who do you want? He came back to Andy Reid and said, I want him. That's who I want. And they drafted him in the first round. Ain't nobody know he was supposed to go in the first round. But see, the Chiefs don't care where they draft you at. If they like you, they gonna get you.
Exactly, and I think that's a great pick. I remember watching him this year. I was watching the LSU Alabama game, and the kid catches everything out of the backfield.
Everything.
He's a small back, but you could tell he's got a lot of heart, and you can't coach that kid. I think he's going to. It just adds another dimension. I think they really didn't have a good top running backs with the last couple of years. Like even the kid in the Super Bowl, Williams, had a couple catches, but I think this kid Edwards-Helaire is going to be able to take that offense to the next level.
Yeah.
Again, it's just
take a lot of pressure off Pat Mahomes.
They got an embarrassment of riches as far as offensive weapons. It's not even close. And they're all ridiculously fast, too.
Yeah. So the next topic, young quarterbacks deals coming up. So we have the top 2 guys, Watson and Lamar. My thoughts on Watson and Lamar, I think that they're going to be right around 40 mil. They might push it, 41, 42, 43, 44, right under Pat Mahomes. I just think if Lamar stay healthy, they're going to be battling. Him and Pat Mahomes is going to be battling. I like Watson, but I just think Watson doesn't have the weapons around him to be nice. And he's not electric like Lamar. take that team to the next level. Don't get me wrong. Watson is good, but I don't think that he's electric like Lamar. And Lamar has a defense. See, Watson don't have no defense. Their defense is super candy. So Lamar gets the ball back at all times. They give Lamar the ball at all times. So Lamar has more time to score the ball. And they put Lamar in a situation where they at the 30-yard line. They at the 20-yard line. They got the ball back at the 40. He's in great field position at all times. Watson, he has to start all the way at the other end of the field at all times. Like, it's rough on him, man. They need to build that D, and he needs weapons. But that's just, my thoughts on that. What's your thoughts on the numbers of the deals coming up on Watson and Lamar?
I agree. I think they should be in that tier above Dak. They should get more than Dak. I think obviously both of these quarterbacks are more talented, and they're both younger. Like Watson's 24 years old, Lamar's 23. Watson is eligible for a deal this offseason because he was drafted in 2000, same year as Pat Mahomes. Lamar is only going into his third year, so he can't sign another deal till next year. Yeah. I think Watson is more mobile than people give him credit for. He doesn't scramble. I mean, he does scramble, but he doesn't run as much as Lamar, but he can run. Obviously he's not as fast. He doesn't have the agility where he's juking people out left and right, but he moves around more than people give him credit for, I think. So I think he's underrated in that. He's durable. I think his rookie year, he tore the ACL, but for the most part, he's played all his games. Just looking at his career stats in 38 games, he's got 9,716 yards, 71 touchdowns to 29 interceptions. One question I do have for this upcoming season, like you alluded to, where he doesn't have the same type of weapons, is how is he going to do without DeAndre Hopkins? Because he threw that ball anywhere near DeAndre Hopkins, he's catching that ball. That guy does not drop the ball. That's a top receiver at 27 years old. Now he's gone. They brought in Brandon. They brought in Brandon Cooks, talented receiver in his own right, very fast. Probably faster than Hopkins, but on talent level, they're not the same. Not the same. He don't run better routes than Hopkins. Hopkins and Watson were good friends. Yeah, they had that chemistry. He like I say, you throw that ball up, Hopkins catches. Like I saw something where he had like 100 catches and like 0 drops one year. Like
he's a beast.
It's ridiculous. So I wonder how he's going to fare without him. But Will Fuller, I think, is a good young receiver for him. He's a good deep threat.
But that's all he does, man.
Exactly. So he's good at what he does. Threat. But he's not reliable because he's always hurt. He's been hurt every year he's been in the league. So I think Deshaun, I don't think anybody's going to get to 45 like Mahomes. I think you could probably put him somewhere maybe in that 37 to 40 range, like a tier below. Again, it's going to be, and I wonder, I don't think you're going to see another 10-year deal like you did for Pat Mahomes.
No,
I think
you won't.
You could probably see, again, you're going to see like somewhere between 37 to 40 million, but maybe it's going to be, okay, it's only going to be 5 or 6 years as opposed to 10.
Yeah.
And again, they could re-up again because Watson's only 24 years old. He's a fairly decent sized quarterback. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. So he's not out there taking a beating, but he's a proven winner. Like you go back to college, he beat Alabama in the national championship. They were up 24-0 on the Chiefs in the playoffs before that game collapsed.
Yeah.
But that's and you look at Mahomes, Watson, and Lamar. They're going to be duking it out for years to come.
Yeah.
But the other thing with Watson is, I'm not a fan of Bill O'Brien as a coach. I'm not a fan of his. I think he's got too much power because he plays the GM role, kind of like what Belichick does up in New England. He comes from that tree because he coached under Belichick. Because we all know there was a history going on between him and Hopkins, and that's why Hopkins left. Because otherwise, there's no reason to get rid of your best offensive player. So I don't think Watson has the weapons around him to keep up, but I think they will be a playoff team. I think they're, especially now that you got that extra wild card, that it'll probably be them and the Titans this year for that division. Now you can even throw the Colts in there, maybe, but I'd say the top 2 teams in that division are going to be Houston and the Titans. So I think he'll get into the playoffs. So yeah, I'd say he should probably get in. he'll probably get a big deal around 37 to 40 million. I think he'll hit. Now, let's get to my boy. I could talk about Lamar Jackson all day long. That's my favorite player right
let's
there.
Let's get into
and,
Lamar.
I mean, we talked about earlier. I'm a Ravens fan, so of course you're going to hear a little biased out there. But we talking about a unanimous MVP here.
Yeah.
The only other unanimous MVP in history was Tom Brady. He's also the young. He just turned 23 in January, so he didn't turn 23 till after his season was over this year. And the numbers he put up were ridiculous.
It was crazy.
His passing, he's not setting the world on fire as far as passing yards, but he led the league in touchdowns, 36 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions. And he had 3,127 passing yards. But the big thing about him is that improvement Lamar made from his rookie year 2018 to 2019. His completion percentage in his rookie year in 2018 was only 58%, and it jumped up to 66%. So you see that improvement he had. We already know how good of a runner he is and how electric he is with the ball. Everybody's seen the spin move on repeat that he did in Cincinnati, where he got by 3 guys at once, and that's just insane.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in a bar watching that game, and there were a couple Patriots fans sitting right next to me, and we watched that play, and the guy looks at me and goes, "Well, I don't know how much credit I give him. You're playing against the Bengals." And I just look at this guy. I'm like, "Oh my God!"
It's an NFL team. It don't matter who
you
you're playing
remember
against.
2 weeks ago when he was doing that to the Patriots' #1 defense, when he was blowing them out of the water? So I think they were a little bit bitter. But you go back to his rushing yards. He broke Mike Vick's single season rushing record in 2019 with 1,206 yards and another 70. He averaged 6.9 yards per carry. So you're talking almost 7 yards per carry on average. And if you look at his regular season record, he didn't start the full season. He took over in 2018 from Joe Flacco, and the Ravens were 4-5. And you're at that point, you're under 500. You're not even thinking about playoffs. They bring in Lamar. He goes 6-1 with that only loss being to Kansas City, and you end up being 10-6, win the division. So you're 19-3 in the regular season since you've taken over. Yes, the big knock on him is he's 0-2 in the playoffs.
But it's not even on him. No, that's the team.
It's not all on him. He hasn't played the greatest. I know he had 3 fumbles in that Chargers game, but at the end he brought him back, and if he wasn't in there, they wouldn't have even had a shot. Like they had the ball with a minute left, down by 6 points or 7 points, so they had a shot, and then he had a turnover, and the game was ended. Didn't get it done. Yes, but he gave them a shot. And again, he's only 23 years old, and he's doing this. Like, he's gonna get better. And I know everybody's worried about the durability concerns about him, but you look at it, you go back and look at his history. He never missed a game in college. He was doing this in college. He was running like this in college.
Yep.
Did not miss any games there. The Heisman Trophy winner has not missed a game yet in the NFL. I know they rested him at the end of the season this year, so he wasn't hurt. They just rested him going into the playoffs. So he did all this really in 15 games this year, and he winning the unanimous MVP. So I think he had a head-to-head matchup against Deshaun Watson, and he just blew him out of the water. I think while their deals aren't going to be too far apart, I think Lamar should probably get, again, a little bias here, Ravens fan. He's probably going to get a little bit more because
he's MVP.
Watson doesn't have that on his resume. He could go to the Ravens and say, look, I'm a league MVP, youngest MVP. 23 years old. He'll be 24 years old when he's eligible for an extension. And I was looking, I'd have to go back and find them, but there's a lady that used to work for the Ravens website, and she was tweeting it out. And there's numbers that show guys that run as much as Lamar do aren't any more injury prone than the pocket passer.
Yeah. We all
Brady
know that.
tore his but people just want to throw that out there. Like, is it Brady tore his ACL at one point? Carson Palmer tore his ACL. These pocket passers, they get hurt. I mean, you're playing football here. You're getting hit. You're liable to get hurt on any given play.
Yeah.
And obviously, I watch more Ravens games than the average fan that's not a Ravens fan. Obviously, you see all the highlights, and you're going to see a lot more of them this year in prime time. But if you watch his games and watch his runs, he does not take big hits. I think I saw in the Jets game at the end of the year when he actually broke the game where he broke Vic's record. He took a hard hit in the beginning of that game, but like that's the thing. The difference between Lamar and if you want to throw Vic or Cam is Vic didn't know how to get down. Vic took those hits.
Yeah.
Cam. I mean, Cam's a different animal. Cam's 245 pounds and 6'6".
He wants
so
that contact.
Exactly. Lamar's bigger than people give him credit for as well. He's not like Vic was only 190 pounds. Lamar's a solid 200. They have him listed at 212 pounds, and he's a little bit taller. He's 6'2". He looks a little lanky, but he's got a little more weight on him than Vic did. So, but again, he's got that agility. He knows when to get down. He gets out of bounds. He slides, and he doesn't get hit hard because
he got that spidey sense.
Dude, he does it. It's unreal. Like in the open field, 1-on-1, it's like you got no shot almost. So the durability issues, I'm not too worried about. Because again, watching all his games, I don't worry about that durability because he just knows when to get down.
He knows.
It's just the question with him is going to be, is he going to continue to improve as a passer? And one of the knocks on him, and you can see it watching the games, is he struggles throwing outside the numbers. But I think, again, I'm not worried about him because knowing the type of kid he is, and he's got that chip on his shoulder, because all the guys telling him, oh, you can't do this. Like even after the game in Miami, that 5-touchdown game to start the season, he was talking about, oh, not bad for a running back. So he has that in his head at all times, and he's using that to drive him. I mean, he had, I think, 3 games this year where he had 5 touchdown passes in against. Like,
he
had 2 games where he had a perfect passer rating. It's crazy that people still, say, oh, well, he runs this and that. Well, like, no, the kid can pass. He had 36 touchdowns for a reason. The kid can pass. And the wide receiver core is not the greatest either. Now, Hollywood Brown is a top talent. He was a little bit hurt last year coming off the Liz Frank injury. He's going to be fully healthy this year. Mark Ingram, good running back. I think he complements Lamar very well. We had a solid offensive line. Mark Andrews, stud young tight end, 10 touchdowns. So they got weapons around them. And they're all young. Again, the same thing with the Ravens offense, just like the Chiefs. They're very young. Obviously, we would all rather have the Chiefs offense than the Ravens talent-wise. I think the Chiefs are more talented. But again, I think they're comparable. I mean, they showed it. They averaged, I think, over 30 points a game, and they were one of the top offenses. And they just set a 40-some year rushing record. They had over 3,000 rushing yards as a team. Like, Mark Ingram even had 1,000 yards rushing, and our third running back, Gus Edwards, had like 700. Like they all averaged like 5 yards a carry. It's ridiculous.
Bananas.
So, and it's the good thing about that is their offense is unlike any other in the NFL. So teams that only have a week to prepare, they're preparing for all these other guys that are pass heavy, and then you got the Ravens all of a sudden where they're the run heavy team, and we haven't really seen a quarterback like Lamar since Vic, and Lamar is a better passer, I think, than Vic was. So it puts defenses in a bind where and I remember people talking about it. There was a sideline reporter because it was a Sunday night game, and she was talking about when they played the Patriots this year, and the Patriots had a number 1 defense. They were undefeated going to that point. Like Lamar and the Ravens offense got the ball, and their first drive, they went down the field, punched them in the mouth. Lamar ran in for a touchdown untouched. And they talked about how the Patriots defense was like in shock. Yeah. Like they couldn't believe what just happened to them. So I think it's sustainable where a lot of people don't. And I think he's underrated as a passer. He proved with that MVP season, and I think he should be paid accordingly. So I think you're going to see, and even Chad Ochocinco threw out numbers where the other day where he tweeted out he thinks Lamar's probably going to get around $200 million in a contract, and if the Ravens give him that big deal, I'm 100% fine with it. Again, kid's 23 years old. He's got a long time to go. He's super young.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't seen a talent like that. It's in a long time. It's just crazy. So I think both Watson and Lamar should both get big deals coming up with these next 2 years. It's going to be wonder how much are they going to get. I think they should be a knock below Mahomes because Mahomes is just so far ahead, better than anybody. It's ridiculous. So I think they should be just below Pat Mahomes as far as contract.
Yeah, they will. Next topic. This is a little low point in the NFL right now that, nobody wants to talk about. But it's the Washington Skins. It's controversy with their nickname change that's coming up. And then recently, this week, they had 15 women accused sexual harassment in the workplace. That right there, that's a big problem. And the stuff that came out where it went to the owner and went to the coaches and they did nothing about it, the NFL might, push Snyder out from owning the team if stuff comes out that this is true. This type of stuff, when you start talking about sexual harassment in the workplace and it's 15 women, oh my goodness. It's over, man. Like, somebody gonna own the Skins. It ain't gonna be him. What's your thoughts about that, Mike?
I obviously, when you talk about sexual harassment, there's no excuse for it, whether it's in the workplace or outside the workplace. There's absolutely no excuse, especially when it rises to the level. Like, if that first woman comes to you, and I believe, I didn't read the article by the Washington Post. I think it was centered around one female that kind of came out. But from what I understand is a lot of these women had non-disclosure agreements. Yeah. So they knew about this. Yeah, they knew about this. And once one comes to you, that should be enough. You go right then and there. And whoever did the sexual harassment, they should have been gone right then and there. You report it to whoever you need to report it to, and they should be gone. There's no excuse. Because I was like, I saw some of the screenshots of text messages where
me too. I see
they were talking about getting food, and the guy texts one of the females and says, "I'm going to grab your ass."
Yep.
And she goes like, "No," and then he tries to play it off like it's an innocent joke. Then he goes back to, "Oh, what do you want to eat?" That's crazy. That should never happen in a workplace thing is, at all.
When these people have all this power, right? You have all this power, but you not even thinking like, oh, you sending a text or you saying this and you saying that. Like, you not understanding, yeah, you might have this power, but you can't do stuff like that. That's not okay, my dude. That is not okay. I seen one report said that the lady, she was in sales. She was on, I think it was Good Morning America or whatever, and she was talking or whatever. And she said that one of the execs told her, because she was meeting with sponsors and stockholders or whatever, I guess giving money back into the Skins organization. He said, make sure you wear something tight, because these people like to look at something nice. Like, how you telling somebody that? Like, really? And then one guy was like, I guess the stockholders or one of the people, oh, he likes to give long hugs or whatever. Like, yo, that whole organization is just nasty. Like, that stuff is nasty, man.
It's true. It was so bad. And again, going back to that Washington Post article, like, they talked about, like, some of the, like, one of the females, when a new girl would get hired, she would go to her and tell her, avoid the staircase, avoid this person, avoid that. Like that. And me, what blows my mind is, they have these non-disclosure agreements. That means Daniel Snyder knows about this.
Yep.
And you think, okay, they got this. No, like, eventually when there's something like this happens, it's gonna come out. And if you're a decent human being, you should be, you should know, like, okay, you get rid of those guys, you report, you should do whatever you need to do to rectify the situation and make sure that never happens again. Like, they were down at one point to having a part-time person as their HR department.
That's
like, how
crazy.
can you run a multi-billion-dollar organization and not even have an HR department?
That's wild.
Like, that whole organization is just a failure.
Yeah.
And I personally think Daniel Snyder should be removed as owner. I saw a report saying that he's likely to be fined, but by the NFL, but not removed as owner. I
He
think
needs
the
to be
NFL needs to
removed.
make a statement
Yeah.
here and removing him and saying, like, make a statement by saying, like, this will not be tolerated. And I've seen women in sports coming out all over now on Twitter and other social media saying that this does not happen. This is not just like a one team thing. Like, this happens all
All the
over. And I
time.
believe that it does.
Yeah.
And it's sad that it does, because like, it's not hard to be a decent human being and treat everybody with respect. Like, it's just really not hard. Like, these women have to work extra hard to prove themselves, so people aren't saying, oh, well, they just slept their way to the top, or they got there because of their looks. Like, no, these women in sports are good at what they do. They got there off their hard work, and that needs to be shown. And it's just sad that in 2020 we still got people out here trying to show their power over women and sexually harass them in the workplace. And it's just like, anybody that had any knowledge and just kind of sweep it under the rug, they should all be out. They should all be out, and it's just sad. I think the NFL needs to make a statement here. I don't think they will, but I think they need to make that statement and get Snyder out of there.
3 people were removed. So the 2,
I have 2 of their names. One was the radio voice, Larry Michael. He abruptly, and I put this in quotes, retired.
Yeah,
and then another was Alex Santos. Director of pro personnel, was fired, and there was a third guy. I do not have his name, but it always comes back to, like you said, those guys in position of power, and the power goes to the head, and you just think you can do whatever you want and get away with it, and that's just not how the world works. It's all going to come out eventually, and I feel bad for the women that had to go through that, because no women should have to go through that ever.
No woman.
It's just it's inexcusable.
Yep.
And
so,
like, my thoughts on the nickname. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm a white guy. I'm not Native American at all. So growing up, I just thought of it was a nickname. Like, I didn't know that it was like a racist nickname until I started to get older and stuff. And
same here.
Like, I don't understand how, like, if you got this group of people that are coming out and saying, well, look, this is derogatory and this is hurtful to us. Like, why I don't understand why you are so hard on and so against changing it.
It's
like, I think it was 2013, Snyder came out and was quoted and said, you can put it in all caps. I will never change the name. Like, come on. Like,
but what happened? What happened? Sponsors
he got
having all the power. So Bank of America, Nike, Pepsi, FedEx, which that's the naming rights of the stadium, FedEx Field. FedEx gave you $205 million for the naming rights for that field, right? Nike is one of your sponsors, Pepsi, and the Bank of America. What did they do? They came out and they showed their power. And what did he do? Soon as that money was about to dry up, what did he say? Oh, we're gonna look into changing his name. Come on, man. Like, that right there makes you look like that's all you about is money. And you about to lose this organization. To me, if more women come out, they can't have that in the NFL. You know how they are against domestic violence and all of that stuff in the NFL. But to have an owner that knew about all this stuff and you have these agreements, that's a black eye to the NFL. I don't see this team being ran by him at all. They're going to tell him to take your ownership and, let someone else run it or whatever. And he's going to might go away or whatever, but he might have to sell a team. That's how I feel.
I mean, I agree with you. He should be gone. And like, I see people talking about it all the time, how basically, like, if you own an NFL team, you're basically like printing money, and you got these minority share owners in the Washington franchise are like trying to sell their shares. And it's like, you're not even the main owner, but you're profiting largely off of this. Like you said, they talk about how it's like printing money and they want out. That should tell you right there about how bad that organization is, that when these people want to sell their team. And I feel bad for Ron Rivera walking into this situation, because by all accounts, he seems like a good guy. He already went through this in Carolina, where the owner came out and was reported that he was sexually harassing women in the
And
workplace.
what happened? What happened to that
team?
He
was removed as owner.
Yes, sir. And he had to
lost
sell
his ownership.
Yes, he did.
I think the big difference here in that situation is Daniel Snyder was not accused of it. But again, I think, it doesn't matter. He knew about
he's
it.
Still
so
the problem if
guilty.
He knew about it and he didn't do anything.
Exactly. So he should be out as well. But I think with Ron Rivera, I think he's the right man for the job to come in there and change that culture. I believe he's a military type of guy, or he came from a military family. So I think he, like you said, all accounts, he seems like a good dude. He had a good report in Carolina. He turned that team around. So I'm hopeful he can do the same thing and change that culture in Washington so that this does not happen anymore.
Yes. That culture needs to change.
What are your thoughts? What do you think about the nickname as far as what do you think they could potentially name the team?
I don't know. I think they're going to still keep the colors because,
Yeah, they do want to keep the colors.
Nike,
they want to keep the
Nike and everybody printed up all this stuff, so they're going to keep the colors. But I know you sent me the Washington red something.
Yeah, I did see that design floated around, the red tails, and it ties in. It ties into the military, and I forget what group of people, but it was a certain group in the military, and I think that was a cool nickname. I thought it was cool, but it would be a little weird. Go Red Tails. I think that would be weird, but so I'm not too sure what way they're going to go, but I think they do need to change it. It's
I don't know either. My thoughts on it, I just know it needs to change, and they might want to reach out to the fans and take a poll of the fans and not just do it because Daniel Snyder wants that name. You know what I'm saying?
I think they already have their name picked out.
Yeah.
It sounded like there's just some copyright issues that they got to deal with right now. But they do want to get it done as soon as possible because they already retired. There's no more Redskins. That's done. Because Nike came out and said we're not selling any.
They took everything off their website.
Your stuff. So I'm glad to see that get changed. It's just that whole situation they got going on there. Yeah. It's a bad look for everybody involved in it. I'm glad that these women finally came out and were able to be brave enough to come out and speak about what happened so that they can make a change and maybe inspire change in not just Washington, but other teams or everywhere that this happens that, look, this is not okay. We need to make changes so that this never happens again.
Yeah. So the next topic, another bad franchise in the NFL, the Jets.
That organization is laughable right now.
So Jamal Adams and the Jets divorce. So the 5th-year option was picked up for Jamal Adams. It's $13.4 million. But the Jets don't want to do an extension for him. My thoughts on this is that you drafted this guy to be all that he is right now and more. He's more than what you drafted him for. He's the all-pro, pro bowler, everything. He's
and he's a great leader.
And
he's
a
leader
great
of that
leader.
team.
So he's the top 5 best defensive players in the National Football League. I don't know what happens during, in the locker room or how he is in the locker room, but on the field, he gives it his all. And that D is trash. That whole team is trash. To me, he's homegrown. You got to look out for your homegrown people, man. You have to. And then if you're trying to trade him, you don't want him. So, you can get some type of compensation, but you can't say, oh, we want 3 first-rounders, 2 first-round. Nah, that's crazy, man. Just give him up and let him go if you don't want him. Or you sign him to a deal and then trade him or whatever you want to do. If you feel this bad about someone that's a top 5 defender, that's crazy. That means your organization, I don't know what they looking at, man. They're trash. But you go out and then you spend all this money on all these free agents and then you don't want to pay your own. I don't like that. I think the Jets is so stupid for this. What are your thoughts, Mike?
I agree. It's puzzling because if you look at the top teams in the league, they build their teams through the draft. We talked about Kansas City. All those guys, with the exception of Frank Clark, they're all homegrown drafted players for the most part, except for Frank Clark and Sammy Watkins. They were both brought in.
And but Matthew.
These top teams, and Tyrann Matthew, yeah. So, like, these teams that are doing this, they're building through the draft and they're adding pieces as they go along to complement. So, to me, you spend, I think he was like the 5th pick or 6th pick overall, somewhere in that range. You got
to pay him.
He's lived up to where you drafted him. He's by all accounts been a good player off the field. He seems like a good leader, and I think it's a no-brainer to pay him.
He exceeded his contract. He exceeded that contract, man. He's an all-pro.
DB, and it's not like, and even say you add $10 million or make it $10 million a year or whatever, just for argument's sake. I think the top of the market is probably somewhere around Earl Thomas, and I think he averages around $14 million a year in his contract that he got.
Something like that.
You're looking at. He got that deal at the age of 30 when the Ravens gave him that deal.
Yeah.
Jamal Adams is probably like 25 or 26. He's young, so he could still live up and maybe even get another deal down the future. But it's like, that's not that. And especially from a team that has cap space, like, you don't have a big quarterback contract. You don't have that many big contracts. So you have the cap space. Like, I think before they signed Le'Veon Bell and C.J. Mosley last year, they had like $100 million in space or something crazy like that. Like,
and they could have gave him a deal last year because he was up for it. They could have extended him last year, but they didn't. Like, that's what I'm saying. When you got all that money, why didn't you give him a deal?
I don't get it, and it blows my mind because it's always smarter when you got players like that. It's always smarter to get them before they get to the market, because once they get to the market, their numbers are go up. So it's good to get them before the market, before that. And their GM right now, Joe Douglas, he was in Baltimore, then he went down to Philly. So he was both our teams. He's seen how both of our favorite teams operate, and they take care of their homegrown players. So why would you not do that there? You've seen how it worked out in Philly. I think you don't have the
power. I think someone else is running it.
Like maybe Gase. I've heard Gase has some power. Yeah. And I don't like Gase. I think he's trash. I don't like Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold is trash too. I don't like him either. But it's wasting it because you signed Le'Veon Bell, you signed C.J. Mosley, you have Jamal Adams. So they do have some talent. I know they drafted a left tackle in the first round this year, so they do have some talent there.
It's some talent.
And you got your young quarterback. Why would you not take care of your homegrown players? It blows my mind when teams don't do that. And I understand some teams, when they're up against the cap, you can't sign every player. You can't give every player a big deal that he deserves, which is understandable. But they have the cap space, so why would you not do it? It's bad when you got videos coming out online where some guy is like videoing Jamal Adams in a parking lot. He's, yo, Jamal, come play for the Cowboys. And he's like, yo, I'm trying, bro.
That's bad.
That's a bad look on your team and how you treat your players.
Yeah.
And that speaks volumes, because when it comes to free agency and you go to sign or you want to sign a certain player from another team, and he's going to look at that and be like, nah, they don't take care of their guys. I don't want to sign there.
Yeah, they're like, nope, I ain't going to the Jets. They trash. They don't take care of their players. Nah, I'm good.
So that just sets a bad precedent. Like, when's the last time the Jets were actually like a good team and in playoff contention? I think their quarterback is Chad Pennington.
But you know what? They can be good right now. The Patriots don't have Tom Brady or Gronkowski. Like, yo,
exactly. Now is the time to take advantage.
Now is the time to take advantage. Like, I would have signed, I would have gave him a deal, had him locked up. I would have been trying to win that division. Now is the time to win that division. But now is really not the time to win a division, because we about to, to close out the pod, we about to get into the Cam deal with the Pats. Now, the Pats just got better and getting Cam Newton. Yes, the compensation of the deal, $1.7 million. He had to take that because of the situation with the pandemic, and he couldn't go and work out for teams, and they couldn't see how healthy he was. Okay, but he already made $20+ million in his career, and it seems like he handled his money well, where he wasn't hurting for a deal. So he signed at 1.7 mil. To me, this is a great deal for the Pats and Cam Newton. Cam Newton comes back and he gets to go to a team that's quarterback oriented, and he can learn the position. Just like Vic went to Philly late in his career to learn the quarterback position. Now he gets to learn the quarterback position. They get to run plays that they never ran before at the Pats. And if he's healthy, they go into the playoffs. That's a no-brainer. Like, yo, if Cam's healthy, he's going to the playoffs. But he still has a young quarterback coach and a young offensive coordinator where they going to be making some stuff up. Now he can say, oh, I can run this, I can do this. Like, in the game with the running quarterback is the main staple in the game right now. Now they going to change their game plan. And you already know the Pats defense, they always been nice on defense, but now they get a game changer, someone that can change the game by himself, running the ball, throwing the ball, and everything else. What's your thoughts on that, Mike?
I mean, he's a former MVP.
Yes, sir.
And he's only 31 years old, so he's still young. I think the knock on him, like you said, it affected him because he wasn't able to go take a physical. They weren't able to see how healthy he was coming off. He had a shoulder surgery back in 2018, yeah. And I think last year it was the Lisfranc. That's a scary type of injury with that foot. But again, I think he that's something he can overcome and come back from. You're talking about a former MVP at 31 years old who's got a rifle for an arm, and we've all seen what he can do running the ball. I mean, I think it's a great deal for the Pats because you don't want to go into your season with Jarrett Stidham. He's an unknown, and you can get a former MVP at that price. Oh my God, sign me up. Like,
man, that's like going to McDonald's and getting a double cheeseburger, man. They just got some low end. They just pick Cam Newton off the dollar menu, man. Like that dude is crazy. I love that analogy. That's great. Like they just said, oh, let me get him right there. Oh, he's only 1.7 mil. Oh, let me get that right there. They felt, but they waited. Yeah, it's a game. Everybody knows it's a game.
Yep, and like you said, they could call plays that they could call before. Like, he even came out and said that. Like, I've seen his workout videos and his videos on social media recently.
Yeah,
he's very motivated right now. And he even said, "Yo, McDaniels can call plays that he never called before." My only concern is, the offensive weapons around him. Their offense isn't really great. We talk about they got a great defense. Like, you got the reigning defensive player of the year, I believe, in Stephon Gilmore, top corner in the league.
Top corner.
So the defense is going to be nice.
Yep. And they got the back end, that safety. Come on. Yep. McCourty and his brother is there too. But that safety, you got to have that cornerstone in the back end. Go ahead.
Yep. And if you're looking at their receiver core, their first round pick last year, N'Keal Harry. He's an unknown right now because I think he was hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
Mohamed Sanu, Marquise Lee, Julian Edelman. Edelman's that reliable safety valve, so that's going to be good for him. And then even a local kid, Demir Berg.
Yeah.
I believe he's from Timber Creek High School. I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
But they got backs too. They got backs.
Yeah. Sony Michel's a nice back.
Yep.
James White, we know he can catch that ball out of the backfield. We've seen him do it. Their tight ends. I looked at their depth chart and they got Matt Lacoste and Ryan Izzo at the top. They drafted Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene this year in the later rounds of the draft. So they're young unknowns right now. So that's my worry is that he's not surrounded by enough talent around him. But when healthy, we know Cam is a top quarterback in the league and he can make plays. He's a playmaker. He can make people better around him.
Yep.
Again, he's got that cannon of an arm. He can make all the throws.
The only knock that I have on Cam is that, and this is what McDaniels and the Patriots will fix with Cam Newton. The only knock that I have on Cam is he relies on his strong arm too much, and he throws off of his back foot. That's the only knock that I have on Cam. They gonna fix that. And once you see him not throwing off his back foot, oh my goodness. Oh, man. It's going to be crazy. If he's healthy and they fixed his footwork, not throwing off his back foot, it's going to be a match made in heaven. And then when it comes to next year, they're going to have to sign him the big money.
Yep. And it's perfect. Like you said, it works out for both of them. Say he goes into it, he doesn't have a good year. Okay, you only paid 1 point whatever mil, and you can go get a young quarterback in a draft because we know this upcoming draft is loaded with young quarterbacks. Start with Trevor Lawrence. So at that point, okay, it's Bayer. Now you get your young quarterback. You're set up for the future. It works out. He could play for another 10 years, like another 5, 6, 7 years or so, and you sign him to a long-term deal, and you got an MVP caliber quarterback. So
you can give him a 5-year deal.
I think
5-year deal.
Yeah, it's a low risk, high reward type of deal, I think. So I love this deal. You know, from that perspective, as a Ravens fan, I don't like it because, you know, as a Ravens fan, we hate the pass and we don't want to see him do good. But I've always been a fan of Cam Newton, and I like to see him do good. But I just hope the Patriots lose. So
with that, people, episode 8, it's a wrap. Thank you, Mike, for coming on the pod. We probably gonna have more, you know, NFL talk in the future. So with that, people, have a good day. 1. So that was episode 8, Dax Deal, with my boy Mike Z. Thank you guys for tuning in. And you will hear us more often, more frequently, talking about the NFL in this coming season. So until the next time, people, stay safe, give respect, and show love. 1. Make sure you go listen to all old and new NBC podcast episodes on all podcasting platforms. And please go to www.nothingbutconvos.com for the latest apparel.